Okay, Madam Chair, you can begin. I'm sorry, you're on mute.
Okay, great. I still don't see any graphics change, but I can still start and you'll just have to help us out, Julianne. Great. Hello, good afternoon. I call this August 16th, 2022 hybrid zoning meeting of the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners to order. I, along with Commissioner Commissioner Quesada, and I believe Commissioner Piscotti will be joining remotely, will be participating remotely via Zoom. We will have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by myself. A moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge of allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you again for everyone who's joining. Deputy County Manager Enrico Gradi, are there any changes to the agenda?
Good. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. There are no changes to the agenda today. Your planning staff, I believe, is ready to proceed, as is the applicant.
Thank you. We will now proceed with public hearing items and hearing procedures. I believe we need to swear in all those presenting today.
Thank you. Please keep in mind that this applies for those testifying in person and remotely as well. Please answer the question. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give at this hearing shall be the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury? All those testifying today, please affirm.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Whatever, in terms of swearing in, we just have to make sure that we're pretty clear on that. I think that's people either raising their hand or right. Is that the best way to do it? Because we need to have a record, right? Does that mean that if people come up, shouldn't they just swear in then if they come up to speak? That way we have it for the record.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner O'Malley. Julianne or Deputy County Manager, do we have direction for how to make sure that we properly get everybody on record?
Madam Chair, I'm going to go ahead and defer to DCM Enrico, please.
Madam Chair, there's a couple options. Certainly we can do something as similar to what we just did now, where we have a group affirmation regarding the oath, and folks can also swear in before they speak. If that is amenable to the chair as well. We're making folks swear in just to be clear and certain that, although this is legislative in nature, we just want to make sure that folks do swear in an abundance of caution to make sure that our record is very clear this afternoon.
My co-commissioners, how do folks feel? I feel okay going with the group swear in, but also willing to ask for more if any other commissioners would like that extra protection.
Madam Chair, just given some issues in the past in terms of procedure, I think it would be best if it would just take a couple of seconds to have everybody swear in when they speak.
Thank you, Commissioner Malley.
Okay.
And that feels fine with me. Thank you. And Julianne, just to make sure, would it be Madam Clerk or who would swear in folks when they come up, or make sure?
Madam Chair, it would be Madam Deputy Clerk Kavanaugh. And just for my clarification, will public hearing speakers be sworn in, or just those that are providing additional information with the presentation?
Madam Chair, Ms. Baca, I think that all folks presenting this afternoon should swear in if we're going to proceed along those lines.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for helping and guide with that decision. Great. At this time, Deputy County Manager Enrico Gradi or Director Lucas Tafoya, please describe the public hearing item to be considered and state the staff recommendations for the item. Please note we will hold all questions until the end of the staff presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. This is Lucas Tafoya, Director for the Planning and Development Services Department. Today we have two agenda items. One is a motion to approve administrative resolution to adopt amendments to the Santolina Level A Master Plan for a Level B2 plan. And we also have a motion to approve administrative resolution adopting the Santolina Level 2B plan. Staff has recommended approval. However, the CPC has recommended denial, and now we are before you today to present this for your decision.
Thank you, Director Tafoya. At this time, do any commissioners have any questions for county staff before we hear the public hearing?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is Lucas Tafoya. Are we going to allow for staff presentation?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. If you can start the staff presentation. Sorry for that.
Staff is ready to present.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the commission. And my name is Catherine Vareka, and I'm with Planning. And we're going to present two items to you today. They're interrelated items. The first one is SPR 20210006, and this is amendments to the Santolina Level A Master Plan. And then the second is SPR 20210004, and this is the Santolina B2 plan. These items are interrelated, so we're recommending that we present the two of them, and then you vote, that you would vote separately at the end. But because they're so interconnected, we'd like to just proceed through the items that staff will present. Will be available for questions for each one, and then we'll turn to the applicant for their presentation, and then after that, proceed to the public comment, if that's acceptable to you. Okay. Well,
That sounds perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the first item is SPR 20210006, and this is a request for amendments to the Santolina Level A Master Plan. The proposed amendments seek to provide consistency between the adopted plan and then the new B2 plan, particularly in the areas of phasing, water, wastewater provisions, and open space. The Santolina Level A Master Plan, and if we can switch to this map. Okay, so this is the Santolina Plan area, which is generally bounded by I-40 to the north, 118th Street, and the escarpment open space to the east, the Pajarito Mesa to the south, and then the escarpment area adjacent to Rio Puerco Valley on the west, containing approximately 13,700 acres. And this area is zoned PC plan communities. The Santolina Level A Master Plan was adopted by the Board of County Commissioners in June 2021 with 24 findings and 22 conditions. Level A development agreement between the county and the developer was also approved in June of, did I say 2021? I meant 2015. Sorry. Also in June 2015, the Santolina Level A development agreement was approved. There were also some amendments approved in 2017 to make adjustments to conditions related to the provision of water service and the timing of water service. So just to emphasize that this approval and these conditions of approval will remain in place if this request is approved or if it's denied. So the Santolina Level A plan is not under discussion here. So under this request, the applicant is seeking to make changes to the Level A plan in accordance with the proposed Level B2 plan that is also under consideration today. And this area, it is a small area, and you can see it marked here in the southwestern portion of Santolina is 630 acres. So it's about 5% of the total area of Santolina. And this will be specialized industrial uses following the original land use plan, focusing on energy production, waste disposal, recycling, and other related uses, which are consistent with the original land use designation. So you can see here, this area in blue is designated industrial and business parks. So these uses are listed as allowed uses in this particular area. The reason for the request is that this B2 plan deviates somewhat from the Level A plan in terms of phasing, where this was originally shown in an earlier phase of development. And the plan now is to develop this relatively soon to tie into some of the other existing uses nearby the site. And also to make a provision for on-site water and wastewater utilities that were not originally included in the Level A plan. The request also clarifies language in the zoning section for solar energy production and to make minor modifications to the land use related to open space and also to transportation, just shifting things around a little bit. But it's important to note, without these amendments, the B2 request could not proceed because it would not be consistent with the Level A plan. So that's why we're amending the Level A plan to create consistency. So staff has recognized in reviewing this request that the Level A plan was adopted in 2015 and was determined to be consistent with the plan community's criteria and the comprehensive plan. And the expectation is that the project will develop as shown in the plan, and also that it is possible that there can be amendments to the plan. So, you know, just this is not like a static process, but this process is spelled out in our zoning code for plan adoption and amendments to plans, where the Board of County Commissioners has the final say in approving plans or amendments to plans. So staff has reviewed this request, worked substantially over time on the request, and has agreed that the proposed changes to the Level A plan are reasonable and are consistent with those that were approved for the Level A plan. And this request was first submitted almost a year ago and was deferred to allow changes that were requested by staff. And finally, the request did go to the County Planning Commission in March to allow these modifications to the Level A plan. There were also some corrections that needed to be made to the language at the time that the Planning Commission was considering the request, and staff was of the view that the corrections or the changes, edits to the language were minor and that those could be cleaned up between the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commission hearing. So that staff did recommend approval of the amendments to the Level A plan with findings and conditions of approval, and in particular recognizing that the changes to Level A are needed for the B2 plan, which will be beneficial as uses such as solar generation and recycling, which are sustainable uses. These uses will also be further refined in another level of planning, which would be subsequent Level C plans. So this is not the end of the planning process here. Nevertheless, the County Planning Commission recommended denial of the amendments to the Level A plan. Of particular concern was the request to allow an on-site water system for the site, even though staff was very clear that this type of system would be limited just to this particular site. Since that time, the applicants and their team have continued working with staff to make the final edits that were suggested at the time of the CPC, and staff has also been continuing to look at the findings and conditions that were presented to the CPC back in March. So with that, Madam Chair, Commissioners, I stand for questions, and also to say too that we're prepared for either scenario for this request, that are possible approval with findings and conditions or possible denial with findings that would be similar to what the CPC had recommended. So with that, I stand for questions, and staff is also available.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Thank you, staff, for all this work. Now I want to ask commissioners at this time, do any of my fellow commissioners have any questions for our county staff? We will have public hearing after commissioners' questions.
Okay. I do have some questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner O'Malley.
So I think you identified this location of 608, I believe, acres. This is what we're discussing on this first item. So would you just list, or you could just sort of generally talk again about the uses that would be allowed?
So, Madam Chair, Commissioner O'Malley, and just to say we're jumping ahead to the B2 plan where the uses are specified in the. Do you have the Level A? You have Level A. So for the B, and we can go back to A, but for the B2 plan, the uses are limited to power generation, specifically solar and wind, battery storage, and that would likely be associated with energy generation, recycling facilities, refuse/waste disposal, and utility and drainage plans. So can I have the A? And just to say, the A plan also lists the land use areas that I was showing on the map.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Burchak, can you explain where you're saying we're jumping ahead? And I believe that you presented on both items, right? Is there a clear distinction between the two items? And is there further that you needed, Commissioner O'Malley? Or did that answer your question?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you. And if we can possibly look at the overhead, the land use map again. So the land use map that I showed you previously shows the main districts within Santolina, the main zoning areas. And these include residential village, urban center, town center, industrial. Julianne, can we have the overhead, please? Industrial, business park, and open space. And these are all the major land use areas within Santolina. So, and again, this is the Level A plan. And you can see the zoning districts there. And you see on the west side, we have an area called Industrial Business Park. And within the Level A plan, and this is the Level A plan here that we're looking at. Each of these districts have uses that would generally be allowed. So for Industrial Business Park, which is this area, and the area under discussion is in this box, the more specific uses are general industry, heavy industry, power generation, battery storage, wholesale trade, warehouse, freight distribution, eating, commercial, food courts, park, public and civic uses, auto sales, so, and a few other transit, rail, utility, and drainage facilities. So these are uses that were already approved under the Level A plan. And you may remember that Level A is the first of 3 steps. So in the second step, then we focus on more specific areas. So this is the second step that's designated here for the B2 plan, and it's getting more specific. So this plan limits the uses even further based on that original.
Those are the specific land uses from the original list that was provided in the Level A plan that are proposed for this area. All right, moving on. So that's basically the Level A plan amendment. And then moving into the Level B2 master plan. In summary, once again, permissive uses are narrowed down. Renewable, green, power generation, solar and wind, battery storage, which is actually a component of that green energy grid that I think there's a lot of efforts working on that around the state and within our community. And just to be clear, that does not include battery recycling or disposal. That's not a part of that. We're talking battery storage as part of the power management system for renewable energy systems. And then refuse, waste disposal, non-hazardous solid waste, and utility and drainage facilities once again. This isn't an area, the B2 area, I think people have looked at this as if it's, a big jump across Santolina to get to this area. Actually, this is the area of the property where we actually have adjacent land uses. So adjacent to this, we've got a PNM solar array that was already constructed. It's operational. We've got the Cerro Colorado Municipal Landfill to the west. We've got the Speedway that's been out there for a long time, and the County Detention Center. Those are all proximate to this level B2 plan area that we're talking about today. We've got a number of water use restrictions that are included in the level B2 plan. I want to go through those quickly. There's no wells permitted as part of this project. No water authority infrastructure is being requested to support this project. Hauled water, non-potable for dust and fire suppression, and potable water for employees, the minimal number of employees would also be provided by a service provider like Culligan. Probably, it's like Kleenex, right? I guess I can say that. Traffic restrictions, less than 500 trips per day total. We had a lot of meetings and conversations with your transportation staff looking at the small amount of traffic that could be generated from this project, and we capped that in the document itself. There are land covenant restrictions that the owner has put on this property for any future sales of property in this area, and that addresses the waste portion. And I'll just read it for you. No hazardous waste, hazardous materials, hazardous substances, all as defined under federal or state law, including the solid waste facility laws, will be disposed of or deposited on the property or any solid waste facility on the property. All right. So I wanted a little bit the relationship. So one of the uses that we've anticipated for this area is a solid waste management facility, a landfill. And there's a relationship between the county's process and the state process. And I just want to clarify a couple of things related to that. And once again, if you want to drill down deeper, Mark's here. So in order for an applicant to request a permit through the state, the county has to, the zoning has to be in place that would allow that use to be done on that particular piece of property. So that is what we're doing with this level B2 plan, is clarifying and drilling down on that particular use as being a permitted use within this property. There's also then that permit process through NMED. That would include any restrictions. So I mentioned the restriction that the property owner has already placed on the property if it's purchased for this use, but also any restrictions that come out of this process through Bernalillo County would be carried forward into that permit process. So there is a relationship between those two things, and I just wanted to make sure that that was clear as well. All right, talk a little bit about water use. So we went back to the original water master plan, and I think Mr. Grotti mentioned this, that originally when the water master plan was done, we looked at how much water could typical light industrial uses, how much do they need on a daily basis? And within the level A master plan, the water master plan, it quantified that. I've got a little graphic that maybe shows that a little bit clearer. So, so within the 1,526 acres that were identified within Zone 7W, it quantified it within the various water zones. All of the B2 plan is within that 7W area. So for all of the industrial land that was within 7W, it quantified that as potentially needing a maximum of a little over 7.6 million gallons a day. If you take the proportional share of this 630 acres as a part of that, which is about 41% of that area, that equates to a little less than 3.2 million gallons a day. When Mr. Grotti talked about the specific uses being identified here as using minimal amounts of water, that's estimated at 5,000 gallons a day for dust suppression and operations of these uses. If it's solar, for instance, they really don't use much water other than occasionally they go out and have to clean those panels. So very minimal water use. We've very conservatively estimated a maximum of 2,000 gallons of potable water that would be, once again, there'd be an on-site system that provides that for employees. We think the actual number is going to be significantly less than that. So just putting that in perspective, relating what was anticipated and planned for in the Water Master Plan versus what we're talking about here today. The other thing is, so within the solid waste management regulations, there's a category of waste. This is not hazardous waste, but special waste categories. And these are types of waste that I think could say need special handling procedures as part of their management. And so we just, we've got a list of those uses, and we've identified the ones that we are seeking to have the ability to take care of at this, if there's a landfill located on this property, as compared to that which are approved for Cerro, Colorado. So you can see the distinction between those two. And I want to say, so the impetus for this landfill is a couple of things. One is to service the, oops, did I think I got it all. Is to serve local industries that are, and primarily the existing recycling industry that recycles metals and automobiles, and those processes result in a substance called ASR or fluff, and that material needs to be stored and as a special waste. It's in the last category, the solid waste not otherwise specified, I think is that what that acronym stands for, and ASR is a part of that. And so this would be a specialized landfill, if you will, that addresses those uses and once again supports industries that are in our local community. So in conclusion, I just want to wrap this up, that we're following the process that was laid out to us by the planning staff, Level A plan amendment and Level B plan for this area. The proposed uses were anticipated and allowed by the Level A master plan. Once again, I read you that list from the Level A plan. It will allow for development in an area with adjacent development and roadway access. The roadway that goes to the detention center would just need to be extended south to get access, but and this is one of those places where it's got like 3 different names. So Shelley Road, Cerro, Colorado Road. I think there's another one when it gets into the jail property. But there is the roads exist and would need to be extended.
We need to put this in full screen.
What?
I know how to do this. It needs to be in full screen.
Oh. Getting some technical assistance here.
Full screen.
Because this is, oh, is that better for you all?
Mr. Strozer, was the last slide you were just on, is that the full list? It looks like it's cut off at the bottom of the page. I just want to make
I
sure.
think that's what they were trying to fix, was the half cut off. So maybe you can read.
That is the full list of what those items that are considered special waste.
Okay, Thank you.
We don't see it on the Zoom right now. I don't want to make more. I could see half of it before.
Did that make it worse?
Now I think you see 100 of me.
So I can go through this. So regulated asbestos waste is one item of
I'm
special
actually
waste.
going to ask you, Mr. Stozer, I just don't want to have too much time. So I wanted you to jump to your, I don't want to give you more time than our
Okay.
county staff had. So I think if you can post the list, folks there can see it. I can pull it up. I believe Commissioner Quesada can too. We have the presentation in our packets.
Okay.
And yeah, if you want to close up your
All right.
presentation.
I want to make sure you were able to see that, and my apologies for
No,
not having it.
no,
there.
not at all. Appreciate it. And nothing on you. It's sort of what we can see and can't see. So thank you.
All right. So going back to the concluding comments, that it will not adversely impact the water supply at 0.2% of what was anticipated for this area in terms of water use that was planned for. It will not adversely impact the traffic due to the low traffic volumes being generated by the uses anticipated. The solid waste facility, once again, is to serve local recycling and industrial businesses. It restricts the type of special waste permitted, and that was the list I just showed you. And any solid waste management facility requires additional NMED permitting, and that separate process would be after this process. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and
Thank you, Mr.
Madam
Stozer.
Chair.
You might want to stay there. Yes.
I'm not going anywhere.
I just want to, so in terms of location of facilities or where things would be placed, that would come through in a plan in the C proposal. Is that correct?
The specific site plan.
Right, the site plan
Yes.
itself as to where things are located.
So any implementation of any of those uses that were on that list I went through, so if it's a solar array, wind generation, battery storage, or a solid waste management facility, all of those would require a site plan through the level C process before they could get a building permit.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Stozer from the commission? Questions, comments?
Thank you very much. And we'll be available to answer questions at the end after public comment as well. Thank you.
I had a couple of questions I just wanted to give, sorry, Mr. Stozer. I just wanted to make sure, again, more in like making sure I'm understanding things clearly, right? The details will go on, like Commissioner O'Malley was just asking. I would like for you to define ASR. And when you say, well, go ahead and do that.
All right. I will give it my best shot, and Mr. Turnbach can correct me if I say something incorrect. But so the process of recycling automobiles for and other components for recyclable metals, that goes through a process, and there are a couple facilities in Bernalillo County that do that today. The byproduct of that process is called ASR, and it is an inert material that is, and maybe I should have said this during my presentation, but one of the ideas for having this particular landfill that allows disposal of this ASR material is that the recycling process and technology continues to get better and better. And all those things that we use that include metals and all these special metals, they are reclaimed through this recycling process. And there is at least the thought that if you have this ASR material stored in a way that you know where it is, it's contained, and the technology improves to a level where you could pull that ASR out and re-recycle it and get more metals through a secondary process, that is something that would be desirable in order to enhance the ability to further recycle that material. It is, once again, it's an inert material that gets, right now, I believe that is being sent up to the landfill in Rio Rancho primarily from Bernalillo County.
Great. Thank you so much for that definition and explanation. One more question from me. When you say that this landfill's purpose is to support local industries, and that may end within permissible, as we've explained over time, but the local industries, does your client or the applicant have a commitment to local industries being supported? Is that, where does that fall in the next steps?
So the business that the driver of this this landfill is in is metal recycling. That is the primary driver for this. But since he's in the business of having to dispose of his industrial waste, which is this ASR material, and he knows how expensive that is in these other landfills, he feels that there is an opportunity to provide a similar service to other industries within the business community here that would be potential.
Thank you. And just to sort of ask in another way, is there and I don't know that this gauges my opinion on this, or I just want to be very clear and transparent. That might come from out of state, that might be in state, that might be Bernalillo County only, or do you all have clear vision for that? Or
the intent is for to serve local businesses within the metropolitan area. That's the intent. There is another component and that is a part of this anticipated landfill, and that was actually in response. It was not part of the agenda, but it was in response to a request from the state land commissioner that there be an opportunity for our client to have a tire baling machine. So we've got a huge problem in the state of New Mexico, and I think also in Bernalillo County and the surrounding counties, with illegal disposal of used tires. And those of you who go back a little ways and remember the river of tires up in Wagon Mound, and property owner that it was actually, I think, a lessee on state land that was putting all these tires, I think over 1 million of them on that property. We have been asked to do a tire baling operation and then store those tires separately in a separate trench on the property. That, once again, I think the anticipation is that if and when, I think it's more likely when, the recycling process becomes economically viable to recycle those tires and make a useful product out of them. I know one of the things that they make out of them in other places is asphalt. And the tires, it is anticipated that they would probably come from areas outside of the metro area. And those would be, coming from, but within the state of New Mexico, but not, so I want to be clear when you ask the question, Madam Chair, about what geographic area this project would serve, that the used tire component would likely serve businesses outside of, and this is probably not the person coming with a pickup truck of tires. This is those operations, the tire stores and those types of operations that generate a significant amount of used tires. And right now it's very difficult to dispose of those. And in order to make sure that you do it properly, you need to bale those tires in order to reduce the amount of air that's available, and also then put them in a trench and cover that bale so that it's not getting water and generating. Tires are also a significant significant generator of various vectors, which are not a good thing. So this was something that the state land commissioner requested, and we want to do that as well.
Thank you for that clarity. I feel very informed. Thank you.
Sure.
Is there any other commission? I know I already asked this, but just provide opportunity for any commissioners to ask further questions. Okay, I did have not for you, Mr. Stozer, but I wondered if I could ask our Director Tafoya. I know, Director Tafoya, that you had, and if this is off topic, but I had met with you when I first started in the commission and heard about tire recycling and the needs for Bernalillo County. How does this proposal, if passed, support or not support the needs of our tire problem here in the county and really the state, as I understood from a presentation you gave me a long time ago?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we just proposed, and it was passed by the commission here recently, an amendment to the scrap tire ordinance, where local businesses, scrap tire generators, whether they're tire shops or other recyclers or other types of business where they're generating a lot of scrap tires, to give them some options for dealing with those tires. So a scrap tire is a no longer usable tire, and so under the previous version of the scrap tire ordinance, it required these tire shops to have a cutter on site, and then they would have to put these cut tires into a solid waste bin, and they would go into the landfill. Under the revised ordinance, it expanded those options that are, to make it a little more consistent, or to be consistent with the State Environment Department regulations, which would allow recycling of those tires. So those tires can be transported out of state, because as the applicant just mentioned, there is really not much of a recycling effort in the state of New Mexico. So in regards to how these would come together, I believe if the landfill were to accept tires locally, that would give them an option to accept these tires, and when and if they ever become a commodity, they can be recycled, versus what the ordinance would originally was drafted as. It would just become a solid waste, and it was just going to the landfill as any other municipal trash. So it would tie in that way. And I don't know, I'll stand for other questions if you need further clarification.
No, that is helpful to my understanding. Thank you, Director Tafoya. Again, any questions from commissioners? Okay, we will move now to public comments. Julianne, I think we will start with the public, and maybe take 5 from the public and then 5 on Zoom and go like that, if that feels okay.
Okay. Did you want to offer any instructions prior to calling the names?
Yes, sorry, I am off of my script, but yes, so the public comment will, everybody will be allowed 2 minutes for public comment. I will be flexible if needed, but ask for folks to really rally up and make sure that your comments are in line and that you're not repeating too much. And again, 2 minutes per person. I will be flexible when needed, but ask for folks to keep it to 2 minutes as much as possible.
Okay, and with that, I'm going to call your names in threes. When you hear your name, if you can make your way down to the podium. Before speaking, if you can state your name for the record. And we will start with the first 5 of in-person attendees. Angelina Lopez Brody, Elsner Hebard, David Vogel,
Madam Chair and Commissioners.
Actually, before you start, can I go ahead and swear you in?
Yes. Okay. Do you want to do us in 3?
Should I have everybody come up at once? The 3 that you just called? Yes. Okay. If the 3 of you could come up and swear in, that would be great. Okay, for those of you about to speak, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give at this hearing shall be the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, my name is Angelina Lopez Brody. I'm a commissioner on the Armijo Acequia in the South Valley and the mother of 2 elementary-age children. I urge the Commission to deny the amended Level A Master Plan and the Level B2 Plan. A new economic analysis is needed for all of these plans, since the original plan relies on outdated data. The population growth projected 10 years ago is far from today's reality. I also urge an approach that is less piecemeal. Low density development, and I appreciate that this is level B2 and not the larger sprawl, but I still feel that the larger piecemeal approach is not conducive to our community. Low density development leads to more driving and more congestion, and these curses of sprawl cause the air pollution and traffic, which induces more asthma in children and more obesity and diabetes in adults. These are diseases that I think we can all agree that our county doesn't need any more of. I'm deeply worried about our community as it faces drought. The Parciantes on my ditch have gone from weekly irrigations to maybe 5 every growing season. That's not really enough to sustain our traditional agriculture. That agriculture comes from cultures that are deeply rooted in this state. I also have hope that we can make wise choices together. We have a choice at this crucial time to move away from sprawl that hurts our health and that of the land. The Middle Rio Grande is already over its water budget. We can pull our heads out of the sand and not support any more development by corporations without our community's best interest at heart. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you very much for having a hybrid hearing. My name is Elaine Hebard. I live at 1513 Escalante Southwest. I've submitted written comments to flesh out these remarks, but there are a couple of things that I'd like to point out. One, there's been no mention of the changes in governance, which are resulted from Mr. Ham's issues with Wall, nor has there been any mention that ABCWA didn't accept the water plan in Level A. There is no demand for Santolina. The U.S. Census estimates that last year, both the city and the county lost population. In 2020, the projected growth for 2040 was only 7% of what it had been estimated to be back in 2012. The PCC allows the county to review a master plan after 10 years. Why wait? With 7% growth projected from what it was, there's no demand. And most importantly, let me just say some things about water. Today's news that water users of the Colorado River have to cut out 15% of their use from their water budget. The Middle Rio Grande gets water from the Colorado. We're going to be affected by that demand. We also saw the river go dry here for the first time in 4 decades. Current water demand exceeds the legally available water supply for the Middle Rio Grande. We cannot add more uses and users, which Santolina will. Unlike other growth nodes like Mesa del Sol, which has a development agreement with the ABCWA, there is not one for Santolina. It will be in addition to all those other future uses. All of Santolina will be served by groundwater. That groundwater pumped will add to the depletions. We are approaching the third rail of the compact by not delivering enough water to the southern part. Please do not allow the changes to level A, level B, and please do have a new economic development plan. Thank you.
David Vogel, Norm Gom, Diane Reese.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is David Vogel. I live at 601 Aliso Drive Southeast. You want to swear me in? Already did. I am a professional planner and an economic and community development specialist. I've submitted a paper for your consideration. I don't know if it can be distributed again, but in case not, I have a copy in case people want to send it around. The Santolina development is not needed. It can cause environmental damage to our community, and it will if it's developed. Population, as Elaine just stated, is declining, and there is no need for this kind of urban sprawl, as documented by Mesa del Sol, which is 1% developed after 40% of its urban plan. To do so would be unaccountable, irresponsible, and contrary to the expertise at the County Planning Commission, and would second guess that decision on your part. I'm not asking you to reconsider Santolina Plan A, but I am asking you to consider your conscience and your responsibility as a leader in approving and moving forward in such a foolhardy plan. We keep getting bogged down in the details and the weeds of procedure and detail, and I'm reminded of the saying, Mrs. Lincoln, other than that, how did you enjoy the theater? We cannot get to the big water issue, the population issue, if we stayed bogged down in these weeds. That's all the comments I have. I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Deputy Clerk, if you wanted to swear in the next speakers. Norm Gom, Diane Reese, Mia Montoya Hammersley.
Okay. I think we're waiting for the third person there. Okay. Okay, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give at this hearing shall be the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Norm Gom. I'm a retired licensed water engineer. My qualifications for providing these public comments today include the fact that I served as the City of Albuquerque's Water Resources Manager for 7 years. I was Director of the New Mexico Interstate Stream Commission and Engineer Advisor to the New Mexico Commissioner for the Rio Grande Compact Commission. I testified with regard to the Santolina development's water use and water supply arrangements in 2015. One of the things that I said is that we don't have the water for Santolina and that we would, in a few years hence, be in serious Rio Grande Compact compliance difficulties. History has shown that to be true. May I show this graphic, please, that's part of my written comments?
Yes, you may. You still need to stick with your time, please.
Yes. So this graphic shows the cumulative credits and debits of water deliveries through the Middle Rio Grande that is owed to the water users below Elephant Butte Dam. New Mexicans below Elephant Butte Dam are entitled to 57% of the water that is released from the dam. Back in 2015, when I testified, the compact credit debit balance was effectively zero. At the end of 2022, the situation had deteriorated, so we were 127,000 acre feet in debt. The Interstate Stream Commission director earlier this month, it was in July, said that year to date, we're another 40,000 acre feet behind in our deliveries, meaning that we are less than a year on this current trend away from a compact violation. I don't have time to tell you how bad that could be, but it would be really bad for the Middle Valley, and it would be really bad for the state of New Mexico. Mr. Strozier said that Santolina would have a gross water use that is at a much lower level than I recall from 2015. But what I really want to do today is to comment about the Level A Master Plan and the deceit that has been associated with that. The County Planning Commission adopted a blatantly false finding, finding number 17 in 2014. The County Planning Commission said the county has taken water supply availability and cumulative impacts into account in making a land use development decision and determining the legal and physical availability of water for the Santolina Master Plan. That's blatantly false. There has been no discussion of water supply availability in depth and certainly no determination of cumulative impacts. At that time,
I'm going to ask you to wrap up your comments because you have exceeded time by a little bit. So if you can finish your comments.
Madam Chair, I have some technical comments which pertain. You said that we would have the ability to address the issues, and this is a very important issue. I request your indulgence, please.
Yes, if you get to the technical pieces that you want to express. Thank you.
The County Commission at the time relied on a letter, which is in your packet, dated July 29th, 2014, from Water Utility Authority Director Mark Sanchez. Less than a year later, he testified before the Board of County Commissioners, and he said the letter which the Water Authority sent to the County Planning Commission had been taken, quote, a little out of context. He said, we were simply asked a question by staff and the CPC, could the Water Authority serve this development? And the answer was yes. Subsequently, the Water Utility Authority prepared a serviceability letter at Santolina's request. The serviceability letter involved consultant studies paid for by Albuquerque ratepayers. It concluded that the cost of water and wastewater infrastructure for Santolina would be $659 million, and that they would have to meet numerous policies, including doing feasibility studies, something that the county has never required.
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up because I don't believe we're talking about the Water Utility Authority and I know it's related, but I believe we've gotten to that on both presentations. So I'm going to ask you to wrap up this so we can go to the next public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I will wrap up. The Level A amended master plan that is before you, Mr. Strozier said, or actually it was Mr. McGregor said that it cleaned up a few things, and actually it muddies a few things. Santolina has chosen to replace the water and sewer master plan drawings in the Level A plan, doubling down on concepts which the Water Utility Authority expressly disapproved. 4 years have elapsed. No application has been made to the Water Utility Authority by Santolina. So this is all a house of cards. And now,
Thank you. I'm going to have to wrap it up. Thank you for your public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Julianne, I believe we're going to go to some Zoom participants. If you're on the Zoom, please, Julianne will call you.
Will do, Madam Chair. We did have Ms. Diane Reese next on the in-person side, and then I'll move to Zoom.
Thank you. Sorry for that.
No worries.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I am Diane Reese. I thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm a retired Air Force officer, and my family and I, after my last assignment here at Kirtland, we chose to live here in New Mexico. We love it here. We're passionate about the life here. And I am also a proud South Valley resident. Hello to Commissioner Casada. Good to see you today. I am also chair of the Central Group of the Rio Grande chapter of the Sierra Club. We're a nonprofit that represents approximately 10,000 New Mexicans, and about half of them are here in the Central Valley, in the central part of the state. This county staff has been working incredibly hard to support Santolina and to do their job, which is to process the plans that have been approved by commissioners. It was noted they've worked many hours for many years on these plans, on this plan, and I know because I've been attending these meetings since 2015. It's not surprising they're invested in this plan, as certainly is Western Albuquerque Land Holdings. It has been repeatedly stated that the level A was already approved, implying there could be no changes or denials, but we're here for a vote, so certainly I do not feel that's true. The staff did clarify proposed amendments and the level B further define, and I would say change the level A. So I ask, please keep your minds open. Santolina should not be considered a done deal. Remember in 15, when the master plan was approved, it was highly controversial. There were many voices who came to say they did not support it. It was a different time, and there were a lot of different commissioners. This is complex, and it's been confusing today. At times, we've looked around and said, no one really understood why we're having a vote. This was all approved in 15, but we have the planned communities criteria, and they make us walk through this. I'd ask you to also look at the CPC, the Planning Commission's findings. They state that these findings are conditions are not in the they are contrary to the principles of the Level A plan. And the Planning Commission also stated that what is being proposed conflicts with the Santolina Development A plan and the plan criteria, plan communities criteria. So they recommend your denial. And finally, water. Any conversation about Santolina is about water. You'll hear many voices, our farmers, our experts. We don't have the water. You can never have a conversation about Santolina without discussing the water. And if someone is telling you that you need to do that, they're trying to distract you. So please, open mind, listen to us, and please deny these recommended approval, amendment, and the Part B, Level B. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I believe we called one more in person before we move to Zoom.
Good afternoon again, Chair Barbeau and members of the Commission. Before my time begins, I just wanted to make a procedural distinction because, not the same one, I'm done with that now, but because there are two different agenda items for the amended Level A plan and the Level B2 plan, the Law Center has prepared separate comments on Level A and Level B. I know that the presentation today kind of intertwined the both of them, but I just wanted to make sure that we have your permission for me to proceed with comments on the Level B plan and for my colleague on Zoom, Maslin Locke, to present our comments on the amended Level A plan.
Definitely. Thank you for that clarity.
Thank you. Okay. Community representatives maintain that in failing to rely on its own articulated procedures, the board has violated the due process rights of members of the community. There is no procedural pathway for the Level B2 master plan to be considered by the board today because no party appealed the CPC's recommendation to deny the plan. In fact, it is still unclear which procedural rules the board is relying on to conduct today's hearing. As Commissioner Quesada aptly noted, the developers have made numerous substantive changes to the Level B2 Master Plan after it was considered by the CPC. Of greatest concern today is the fact that non-hazardous solid waste, municipal, and special wastes was added as a permissive industrial use in greater detail. This is a significant change that the CPC did not have an opportunity to address and that members of the community did not have an opportunity to comment on. Most of Mr. Stroser's presentation today focused on details of the landfill. That is the first time that the community is hearing any of the details about that particular permissive use. Further, as you all know, and as many have noted today, the Rio Grande went dry for the first time in 40 years just a few weeks ago, a heartbreaking foreshadowing of the increased water scarcity to come. The CPC is the administrative body tasked with advising the board on the promotion of health, safety, morals, and the general welfare, expressed significant concern about the unknown source of water that would supposedly be hauled from another location under the B2 Master Plan. The PCC require that, as part of the Level A Master Plan, the developer provide documentation of physical and legal water availability. We are now well into the Level B planning process, and developers still have not provided this documentation, instead using the Level B planning process to kick the can down the road. Notably, the original Level B2 plan stated that the Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority might provide service to the B2 area, but once it became clear that the service would not be provided, the Level B2 plan was amended to provide for on-site utilities. As it stands, the Level B2 Master Plan paves the way for developers to utilize on-site utilities as a tactic to delay securing reliable water and wastewater services. For these reasons and for those outlined in our submitted comments, community representatives respectfully request that the board defer its consideration of the Level B2 Master Plan until the latest drafts have been reviewed by the CPC and a CPC recommendation has been properly appealed pursuant to your procedures. Alternatively, community representatives urge the board to use your authority to prevent piecemeal development and water insecurity in our community and deny the Level B2 Master Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Julianne, please call the next speakers.
Okay, we're going to now move to Zoom speakers who have been added to the Zoom meeting. Patricia Wilson, who I believe had to jump off, so she shared her written comments. Maslin Locke, Lisa Christopherson, Kathleen McCord, Marcia Fernandez, and Jorge Garcia. And before you begin your comments, Madam Deputy Clerk, if you can swear them in.
Those of you waiting to speak, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give at this hearing shall be the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
We'll start with
whoever would
Maslin
lead.
Locke.
Good afternoon, Chair Barbeau. I don't know if you can see me because I can't see myself, so hopefully you all can.
I can hear you, Miss Locke. Thank you so much. I can't see you, but I can hear you. So please go ahead and proceed. Maslin Locke. Now you're on mute.
Okay, please forgive me. I know we're all having technical difficulties. Sorry, Madam Chair, and thank you again, members of the commission. My name is Maslin Locke, and I'm also a staff attorney with the New Mexico Environmental Law Center. The Law Center represents a coalition of community organizations and individuals, including residents of Albuquerque's South Valley, whose water resources are being threatened by the proposed Santolina development. Just as an initial comment, county staff clearly stated that it relies on Rule 19 of regular zoning meeting legislative public hearings. Sorry, the host muted in the middle of that. I don't
Sorry,
know.
I was trying to pin you. Go ahead and continue.
I would encourage all the commissioners to read that rule, which does not actually provide for developers' presentations under the procedural rules. Instead, staff seems to be relying on the traditional way these hearings have always been handled, but oddly, these traditions were not followed related to other aspects of this hearing. As my colleague, Mia Montoya Hammersley, pointed out, and community representatives have pointed out in their written comments, the board should not be holding this hearing today because no party to this proceeding appealed the CPC's recommendation to deny the amended plans. But instead of addressing this procedural issue, the county's decided that the rules don't apply anymore. Notably, even the developers knew to follow these rules in previous Santolina Master Plan approvals, but for whatever reason, that process was not followed in this instance. In failing to rely on its own articulated procedures, the county has violated the due process rights of members of the community. And the county's reliance on select portions of the Bernalillo County Zoning Code to assert that an appeal of the CPC recommendation was not required conveniently ignores relevant portions of the code that would have also required this board to simply sustain the denial recommendations of the CPC. Additionally, in hearing the Level A amendments as revised in June 2022, as well as the B2 plan, the board is now considering Santolina master plans that have not been considered by the CPC, circumventing the CPC's authority as the county body responsible for advising the board on issues related to health, safety, morals, or the general welfare of Bernalillo County. The county's process in hearing the Level A amendments seems to be misleading at best, as the county has also all but approved the plans despite the denial recommendations of the CPC. The amended plans are already located in the approved plans section of the county website. The plans are listed on today's agenda as motions to approve the amended Level A plan, and nowhere to be found is any information related to the CPC's recommendation to deny these plans. It's for these reasons and the reasons outlined in our submitted comments, as well as the comments presented by my colleague earlier today, that community representatives ask that the board affirm the CPC's recommendation to deny both the Level A amendments and the Level B2 master plan. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mason.
Lisa Christopherson, followed by Kathleen McCord.
Hi, hello, thank you. My name is Lisa Christopherson. My family owns a home and I live on 98 and Rio Bravo, which is within miles of the proposed 600 plus acres of Santolina development. I am currently stuck in the congested traffic that is now Rio Bravo and Dennis Chavez. I thought I'd live the experience for you all, since I can't send you a video. An apartment complex has gone up and additional units are presently being built at 98th and Rio Bravo. And I'm wondering if the increase in the number of people and families that now live near the proposed Santolina development, has that been studied? Because to my knowledge, that has not been accounted for since the last economic analysis. We have an Amazon warehouse out here now, but I want to tell you the AM and the PM traffic now, I wish I could quantify it in some data-driven information that compared from 5 years ago to what it is now, bumper to bumper. It takes me, as I testified at the last hearing, it takes me 25 additional minutes that it did not before, and that's just trying to get from 98 to either I-40 or I-25. And so I am curious as to why there is no need for this Santolina development other than the developers trying to recoup monies, but truly, was there some sort of survey done? I mean, who said that this Santolina development was needed? What is going to be done to address the congestion that all of that? Right now, we have huge trucks, and it's a 2-lane road that goes from Rio Bravo south of Unser to 98. It's a 2-lane road. There's not a bicycle lane, etc. We have heavy equipment that goes to and from the landfill. Is already congested area. What are you all commissioners doing? I see nothing in any of these plans that addresses for those of us who live in this area. How is that going to be addressed? I would urge you please to deny both A and B for those of us who live in this area. I'm not sure if any of these developers live in the area. If they would be sitting in traffic with me right now and know how it feels every morning and PM. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. Ms. Kathleen McCord.
Next, we have Kathleen McCord, followed by Marcia Fernandez, followed by Jorge Garcia.
Okay, good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. To quote an earlier speaker, any conversation about Santolina is about water. My name is Kathleen McCord. I represent the community organization known as Valencia Water Watchers, a grassroots group of New Mexico residents who advocate for responsible, sustainable, and equitable use of our most precious, fragile, life-giving resource, our water. New Mexico is the most water-stressed state in the USA. The Rio Grande just dried up in Albuquerque, the first time in 40 years. 5 days ago, KRQE News published an article titled, "In New Mexico, there's not enough water for everyone." We all need to read that article. There is not enough water right now, and there is certainly not enough water for massive water-using developments. We must learn from Rio Verde Foothills, Arizona. This community near Scottsdale was built on desert land, just like Western Albuquerque, with no permanent water source. The developers arranged for water to be hauled in from Scottsdale, similar to the WALH plan for Santolina. The city of Scottsdale has informed the residents of Rio Verde Foothills that starting January 1st next year, water will no longer be hauled to the community. No more water. Residents have been drilling 900-foot wells that are dry holes. The same has happened with New River and Desert Hills, Arizona. Residents depended on hauled-in water, and then water hauling was ended. Reality is screaming at us to stop. We all must do our parts to be responsible stewards of our water. It is not an infinite resource. Water rights on paper does not mean that real, wet, life-sustaining water is available. Development decisions must reflect our water realities. We urge you to vote no and deny these Santolina proposals, just as your County Planning Commission has recommended after studying them. We agree with previous speakers that you need to stop the Santolina project before it goes too far. Thank you.
Ms. Marcia Fernandez, and then Jorge Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Marcia Fernandez. I live at 2401 Violet Southwest on a little farm in the South Valley, which, well, no longer sustains cattle because the pastures are dry, but that's what everybody's been talking about, uncertain water. But it reminded me last night, I was thinking about my mom and how she always told me when I was a little kid, don't say anything if you can't say something nice. So I sat down with a pencil and tried to think of nice things to say, and I came up with a good one. Number one, the Bernalillo County employees who deal with planning and zoning and deal with us, the public, they're great at answering our questions. They field our emails, our texts, our voicemails. The county planning commission, county planning personnel do a great job, and they understand what is at risk here, and they make their comments accordingly. My worry is that, is there anybody listening to the wisdom that comes out of these people who are experts in their field? So that's my number one nice thing to say. My mom is smiling at me somewhere. My number two, well, I don't really have a number two to read to you today because I can't think of a good thing about elected officials and policymakers right now concerning the Santolina development, except the CPC, which surprised me by asking these two applications to be denied. So instead of a good thing to say about either Santolina and its developers or the people who will vote on them, I wanted to echo the words in today's Albuquerque Journal. There is an op-ed by my colleague and friend Patrick Jaramillo, who brilliantly and eloquently wrote that we invite you, the commission, to do the right thing and uphold the decision of the CPC and deny both Santolina applications. And while I'm at it, I would like to invite the Santolina developers to do the right thing as well. You know, you've made a good start. The plan to do renewable energy, wind and or solar and battery storage for energy is a great idea and it's on the right track. But the 1970s style urban sprawl development that is actually the level A master plan is really not necessary. Urban sprawl is something that we really, smarter people than I have told you why it's a bad idea. But you know, this is an opportunity for Wall to do something better. They have started on a good track with recycling. I think it's a good idea. With the energy, those are good ideas. But now that I understand the waste dump, which we get the 2,100 pages of this plan and read it as citizens, and nowhere did it talk about the good things that Mr. Strozier just read us about taking care of some really needed waste disposal. We had no concept. We have no idea. Nobody's told us. But now that we heard it, that changes things. We are in favor of environmentally responsible things that will help the future, that will see us to a better, brighter future for our children and our grandchildren. And since it doesn't use water, you know, maybe there's a chance that the river won't go dry again. Maybe the river will flow. Maybe the irrigation.
Ms. Marcia Fernandez, I'm sorry, I have to ask you to wrap it up.
My hope is that you as elected officials will do what you were elected to do. Protect the health and safety of those of us who elected you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Fernandez. Julianne, please call the next speakers.
Last on Zoom is Jorge Garcia.
Mr. Garcia, you are on mute if you are talking.
Mr. Garcia joined us by telephone. So if you can unmute, if you can hear us.
You can push *6 to unmute Jorge Garcia.
Please.
There you go.
Thank you. Dear Chair Barboa and County Commissioners, my name is Jorge Garcia. I live in 1212 Mantos Place Southwest. I am a member of the Acequia de los Ranchos de Atrisco and Armijo and director of the Center for Social Sustainable Systems, CESOS, long resident of the South Valley. I have decided to express my thoughts and sentiments about this plan development with the intent to persuade you to uphold the recommendation of the County Planning Commission to deny WALC request to ignore the internal process and recommendation to keep moving on their multi-million-dollar project. I understand that there might be a lot of political pressures to support this development moving forward, because I'm sure that the talk behind your desk, it might be about the great opportunities that this development represents for the growth of our city. But if this is the case, so it's just a great business adventure that will continue to change the landscape of our city and compromise our water availability. Just to give in to the wish and desire of housing development executives who have been proven beyond reasonable doubt that will be detrimental to our region, and it will be just a benefit to their business adventure. Just a couple weeks ago, we were all facing the total dryness of the river, and the only reason why we have water in the river is that there was a discharge. Farmers are not getting any water and have not for months. The wells on the east side are getting contaminated with the oil spills from the military base. And the overuse of groundwater by intense industrial use and other extractive industries will continue to affect the availability of water for the personal consumption. After all these years of arguing against this development, I recognize that some of you are hardcore sold into the idea as a benefit to our area. To my knowledge, no one is shutting down a good business idea for a region. What people are against is the fact that excessive growth for which there is no water compromises the future of our children and our grandchildren, just to satisfy the needs of a small minority of people who stand to benefit from this development. I found that it's very hard to try to persuade you to vote against this development from a rational and conscious decision based on the facts and the reality of our region. A lot of you were supported to have the CEO sitting and counting that you will represent our voice, the voice of our community. You might not, or perhaps some of you owe that seat to the developers that we are fighting, not accusing anybody. Whatever might be the case, though, a vote against protecting our community in the future will always be there to carry in our consciousness with pride Always shame. Even if you can justify your vote to support the development community that cares about nothing except their own multi-million-dollar projects and the benefits that will bring to them, not to you, nor your constituents. Thank you very much for allowing me to provide my thoughts. And I, from my heart, because I've seen so many numbers, so many statistics, so many realities being posed to this group that sometimes I think what's going on? In what part are we actually failing to see that we're failing our future?
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you.
Julianne, can you call the next speakers?
Yes, so going back to in person, Susan Sherman, Sally Moon, Patrick Jaramillo. If you please make your way down to the podium to be sworn in.
Okay. To our next three commenters, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give at this hearing shall be the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury? Yes. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Sue Skirman, and I'm speaking today as a resident of Bernalillo County, where I've lived for over 20 years. And first, I just want to add, as a communications professional, I try to help foster effective communication. And that includes today, in light of numerous communication glitches that have prevented adequate public participation. And you might ask if people have signed up but have not had their name called. I urge you all to adopt the CPC recommendation to deny both plans. I've been following Santolina for about 7 years. I'm glad it's never been built, thanks to dogged community opposition. I'm deeply concerned that the developers keep raising this failed concept from the dead. It keeps reemerging in different forms. The original plan would require more water than we have. The latest plans claim to not need any water, or that the water will be hauled. From where? How much water? So many questions remain. It sure sounds like they are just playing a shell game, telling the county what they want to hear. The bottom line is there's not enough water for current users, let alone a massive new housing development that population trends indicate is not needed or sustainable. Approving these plans, in fact, would be environmental racism, taking water away from low-income people of color in the South Valley who have irrigated their fields from acequias for generations and giving it to out-of-state investors. We urge you to do the right thing and reject these piecemeal development plans in light of our current reality, the climate crisis that is here now, and dwindling water that we must all share in an equitable and transparent manner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Commissioner and Commissioners, my name is Sally Moon. I'm a resident and a small business owner in Albuquerque, and I have a small business in Belen where I actually have property there also. I actually heard about this 2 weeks ago, and it was at a meeting or a gathering at the river, the Rio Grande, in celebration that we had water 2 weeks ago. Prior to that, it was empty. It hurt my soul. So I felt compelled to be here because we see this as numbers and rules, regulations, but we don't see it. Our river is empty. This does not provide water It might provide some money. Is that worth what we're going through and what we're facing? No, not for me. I just really ask you to look deep in your hearts, and is this something that you want for our future? I don't look at just grandchildren and I look at 7 generations. The native way, we look at 7 generations ahead. How is this going to affect our families, our state, our communities, our business? You don't get water out of nothing. I ask you to deny any of this and complete it and just make it null and void. Thank you.
Madam Chair and members of the commission, I had some remarks prepared bearing witness to this process and how the county staff has bent over backwards to accommodate developers while silencing community and holding us to a different process than them. I have nothing. It's just, I'm rendered speechless. Would you think after 8 years I would be used to pendejadas like this? All I can say is listen to the Planning Commission. There is no water for this. They'll say we're not talking about water, and then all the slides are about how they're reducing their water use. This, as another speaker said, there is no conversation about any development without water. Water is life. Water is life for us as individuals. Water is life for us as a community. And there is no water, and there will be less. Honestly, I'm speechless. The fact that this is being considered is beyond reason. So all I hope is that the paper shufflers look up from their papers and look outside. What is our future? It's going to blow away. Our future is going to blow away in the wind. And if you approve, you will be culpable. So all I ask you is to deny, honor the recommendation of the Planning Commission, and deny these amendments. I yield my time.
Thank you, Julianne. Please call the next speakers.
Mimi Lopez, followed by Elizabeth Ziers, followed by Andion Scheichel. If you please make your way down to the podium so Madam Clerk can swear you in.
I was waiting for the other two.
Elizabeth Ziers, Andion Scheichel. Okay, we'll go on to Laro Silva and Mimi Lopez.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give at this hearing shall be the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Mimi Lopez. I have lived in Albuquerque for almost 70 years. I am here today to state the obvious, which is that we are facing a critical shortage of our water supply. New Mexico and the entire southwest region of our country are experiencing a drought of historic proportions, the effects of which are being significantly exacerbated by the climate change afflicting our planet. Very recently, the Rio Grande went dry. Climate scientists suggest this will be more than a one-time occurrence. The amount of water in the Colorado River has decreased so alarmingly that the water managers have now announced that permitted users of Colorado River water will expect to have a substantially reduced allotment in the coming year. New Mexico is a Colorado River water user. Unfortunately, we currently have no means of increasing our water supply. The only thing we can control is our rate of consumption. We need to be laser focused on water conservation practices, both those already known and innovative practices, some of which we might rediscover under guidance from our indigenous tribal communities who have long histories of survival in New Mexico. Under the current extreme drought conditions, I contend that it is the epitome of foolishness and irresponsibility to do anything to aid and abet a massive, unneeded new development. I urge you to uphold the County Planning Commission's recommendations to deny both the requests regarding the Level A and Level B plans that are the subject of today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez.
And Madam Chair, that concludes public comment.
Okay, and I did want to ask if there's somebody that signed up for public comment and for some reason wasn't called, provide that opportunity. Okay, thank you. Now I'll move back to commission for any questions, comments, or a motion.
Madam Chair, if I might just make a staff comment.
Yes, Mr. McCall.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Nicholas Ham, Bernalillo County Zoning Administrator. There's been many comments this evening about procedure and whether or not the county is following its adopted procedure. And so I wanted to speak to that to make sure that we have information on the record with regard to what the code says and information on the record with regard to what your rules of procedure say. I'm going to start with the county zoning code. Section 19.5 PC, Planned Community Zone. Section B, Procedure. Number 1, adoption and amendment of Rank 2 Level A plans is by the Board of County Commissioners. B2, adoption and amendment of Rank 3 Level B plans is by the Board of County Commissioners. Moving on to Section 25, which speaks to amendments of adopted land use documents. Section 25A says that any proposed amendment, supplement, or change shall first be submitted to the Bernalillo County Planning Commission for its recommendation and report, which that process has occurred. Section 25E, which deals with appeals, says appeals shall only be taken for actions where the County Planning Commission has been delegated final decision-making authority except for zone map changes. And as stipulated in Section 19.5, you are the final decision-making authority with regard to these types of planning documents, both a Level A amendment and adoption of a Level B plan. Moving on now to your rules of procedure. Section 1, applicability of the rules, states that quasi-judicial proceedings do not include legislative actions adopting, amending, or revising comprehensive community or neighborhood plans, zoning regulations, other land use planning documents, or the adoption of area-wide maintenance maps or amendments. Legislative acts relating to land use matters may be heard at a regular administrative meeting or, if necessary, a regular zoning meeting. So we are at a regular zoning meeting. You are considering items that you have final decision-making authority through the public hearing process. Now moving on to Section 19, which has been cited by some of the folks at the Environmental Law Center. Public hearings procedures. The first statement in that section says that these procedures to be followed for public hearings on legislative matters are generally as follows. Now, in my job as interpreting code, generally to me, when speaking about the Board of County Commissioners, means that you, in your wisdom and your authority, have the ability to amend those as you see fit. It would strike me as a little bit foolish, if I can't think of a better word at the time, to move to make a decision on something when you haven't heard from the folks that are actually making an application. You also have discretion to ask questions of the public. These folks in some way are members of the public. It would appear to me that you have the ability to seek input from the folks that are submitting the application. And I find nothing in the adopted rules in the county zoning code that suggests that you all or county staff has violated any procedure that's adopted governing these specific processes. With that, Madam Chair and Commissioners, will stand for any questions.
Thank you so much for that clarity, Mr. McCam.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner O'Malley.
Well, Mr. Ham is here. This isn't about procedure, but when the CPC heard this request, there was another request, correct? At that same time by the land agents. Could you talk a little bit about that and what's happened since then?
Madam Chair, Commissioner O'Malley, to my knowledge, there may have been a request for zone change.
There was a request for an interim use.
Okay, Madam Chair and members of the commission, so give a little bit of context. In previous actions, or I guess through this process, there was interest expressed by this particular applicant to pursue a special use permit. There's language in both the Level A plan and the adopted development agreement that speaks to interim uses. There was a disagreement between what county's position was on that and what the developer or the applicant's position was on that. So part of my duties are to interpret zoning language that's in the code or in related documents. And I did just that. I interpreted interim use to mean uses that are, and I'm going to paraphrase here, limited to 36 months and don't make permanent changes to the land. That decision was sent to these folks. It provided for an appeals process. That goes to the Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment affirmed my interpretation of that. That decision was then appealed to you all as the Board of County Commissioners, and you all again affirmed that decision. I'm going to defer to the folks at County Legal to describe the process beyond that, but in the county process, my interpretation was upheld through both bodies, through both appellate bodies in the county process.
I just wanted to make that statement because there were some other things that were going on, and my understanding is this commission held firm on our procedures, right? And so it was appealed by the representatives of the agents for the property, and then it went. They appealed it, went to court, and that they lost. So I just want to say that because I think that we're really paying attention, as a commission, right, to our procedures, to our ordinances, and how we move forward. And it's not that we're not dismissive, right? That we know what our responsibilities are concerning land use and all the legal, concerns associated with it. So I wanted to make that statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Malley. So the public hearing is now closed. Do any commissioners wish to make a motion on the item and second in order to open it for discussion and a vote?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Benson and Commissioner Quesada. Any discussion, further discussion from commission?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Benson.
Yeah, there's a couple things I want to highlight before we take a vote. And thank you all for the public comment here. It's appreciated, and I wish we had more zoning meetings where more people came. I apologize. I am making a motion to approve. Do we have to vote on each item? All right, then.
Yes, that's correct.
And do we have to get a number?
Mr. Vice Chair, per the script for Madam Chair, she's requesting if there's a motion or a second to start the discussion, And then if it's going to move for a vote, then she will prompt the clerk to issue a resolution number. And then a second motion for 4B.
Okay.
So now that there's a motion and a second on the table, then you can start your discussion.
Thank you so much, Julianne. So, and also, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Excuse me, Madam Chair and Commissioner Benson, just very quickly would like to state that if you proceed with a decision, that we do have findings and conditions for approval for each case and also findings for denial for each case, if you'd like to see those. But normally those do go along with the decision.
Are they automatic or do we have to approve those?
Ms. Burke, can you please explain that further? I didn't understand what you're referring to.
Madam Chair, just to state that the commission should be aware of the findings and conditions that they are approving along with just the decision. And we've been reminded too that the Planning Commission did recommend denial. So we do have those findings for denial if the BCC wishes to go in that direction. We also, in the staff report that was provided in March for the Planning Commission, there were findings for approval and conditions of approval for each of the cases that govern the case, that give the rationale for the decision, and then also the conditions about particular requirements that need to be met as a result of the decision. For instance, that there need to be subsequent level C plans, that the elements of the level B plan must be complied with. So all of those are examples of some conditions of approval that could apply if you decide to approve these requests. So we do have copies of findings and conditions or findings for denial. If you'd like to see them, we could pass them out, and I'm not sure how we can make these available to the folks online.
I'm sorry that I still am not completely understanding. Maybe some clarity. I'm not sure if Enrico or other, but if this is part of what we should be considering, then is there a reason why it was not included in the presentation?
Madam
Is that
Chair.
what I'm understanding, that you're saying there are more findings that we should consider before a vote? Is that what I'm understanding? You the same, Ms. Breck?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, so just to say that these findings and conditions for approval and findings for denial were basically part of the process for the Planning Commission, and we've extracted them and we're giving them to you that you can decide if you decide today about how to proceed, that these findings and conditions may go along with what you decide today. I did try to send these over earlier today that you could take a look at them. I can also display them here if you'd like to see what we've passed out, if that would be helpful.
I want to make sure we're following process. We do have Julianne. There is a motion on the floor, and I'm not sure that we can take further, like some advice, please.
Madam Chair, I'm going to go ahead and defer to Enrico.
Madam Chair, members of the commission. So basically, I think what Mr. Varek is explaining is that if the commission moves to support the recommendation of staff for approval or support the recommendation for denial of the CPC, we do have findings of fact and conditions of approval that outline what was discussed in today's hearing.
The conditions and findings are very typical of zoning cases, planning cases, and so on. So those are available. If we have a motion and there is a move to approval, we have those that we can read into the record that specifically outline the conditions under which staff supported this request. So staff recommended approval of this request with specific conditions in mind to allow for, as you had mentioned earlier, the safe and consistent implementation of this plan according to all of the county staff's comments. So if we move in that direction, we can review those and make sure that they're adopted into the record to assure that this master plan is following all of the county rules and regulations consistent with its review and comment from agencies. If this request is denied, we also have findings that would support the denial of the Planning Commission. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood that this is very typical of this process. And these, we would wait for any direction from the commission, and then we can work on reading those into the record as the commission would like.
Thank you for that clarity. And to what I believe was Commissioner Benson's question, whichever way we vote, do those come automatically? And
that is correct.
Okay, thank you. So I believe there's a motion on the floor. I'm not sure that it's clear whether the motion is for which of the two proposals.
The first item, Madam Chair.
Okay, and there's a second. Any further discussion?
I would like to make some comments.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Vice Chair.
So one of the items that was presented for the reason that we should be swayed to deny the approval is the population loss that we've had. And that hurts me as much as watching the Rio Grande shrink. And don't get me wrong, Ms. Moon, your testimony was heartfelt, and it definitely moved me, and I agree. It's heartbreaking to see the Rio Grande dry out, but it's also heartbreaking to see our families move away. And I actually lived in Belen when I was a kid, and my friends, the Padillas, Vasilio Bull Padilla, all of his children have moved out of state. Well, actually, one is down living in Las Cruces. The other three are out of state. Tabbitt's moved up to Albuquerque. John Sharkey, he was a police officer in Albuquerque. His two daughters have moved out of state. That's just Belen. My family from Tucumcari, Santa Rosa, all of my surviving family from Santa Rosa have moved out of state. That's population shrinkage. They got great water. Most of my family in Tucumcari have moved out of state. Most of my friends and family here in Albuquerque have moved out of state because we don't have development. And it's not the development that's draining our water resources. And when we've got an example of a developer who's trying to find smart ways to do it, using 2% of the water, if we all did that, if everybody in this room, if every citizen, and you should please go to the Water Authority. I'm sure a lot of you do go to the Water Authority meetings. They track the water usage for businesses, for developments, for residents. And we're doing better, and we're using less and less water. And that's what we need to do. We need to be smart because water is our most precious resource. And so when we see examples of this, of smart ways to use water, we need more of it, right? And they track who's using the most water. And if we all moved, then the water would return. Is that what we want? Get rid of all the farmers, get rid of all the residents? We could have that. We could have that. So what we have here is we've got a plan that's already been approved. Now we're trying to define it. And I see no reason why this conflicts with any of the plans. And in fact, it's a smart way to make use of the land. And I was also I also heard listen to your constituents. My gosh, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. It's because I have been listening to our constituents and the multiple constituents that continue to move away. That's why I'm here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Quesada. Thank you, Vice Chair Benson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, a couple of the speakers made some valid points about here. I do live up here. I do live up on 98th and Tower. This is my area. It is important to the residents up here. She was talking about the traffic, right? All those houses are already here. And the only way to have any kind of proper development and proper, which I call economic justice, the only way to solve those traffic problems is to have jobs over here, to have, to have a plan in place that says you have to have jobs first before you can develop any more. That is what the Santolina Master Plan does. It is an equation. It says jobs first before you can build anything else, right? You have to put in opportunities for jobs before you can move forward. And that is the only way we are going to fix the traffic problem. We will never build another bridge. We have to look at what equity is. The one thing I do find offensive is to be calling where I live sprawl. I live on 9 Mile Hill. We're 9 miles from First and Central, and there is no city in the United States that considers 9, 10, 11, 12 miles from the center of their city sprawl. The problem that we have is we just live on the wrong side of the river. And so because of that, because of this looking really thoroughly at water, right, that makes a difference to us, I think, because we do have concerns about water and we have to look at who conserves water. And again, I will say this and then I'll move on. It is not just my area of town that is responsible for the water in Bernalillo County. It is every part of Bernalillo County that is responsible for our greatest natural resource. Okay, I'll end with this. But yet, nobody made a peep about right across the freeway, the big, huge Amazon plant that's already expanding twofold. And I don't know if they've been up there and looked at it, but it's pretty massive. And I don't know if they did any research, but they're using potable water. They're using Albuquerque, Bernalillo County water, but yet not a peep, not a protest, not a nothing when it comes to that side of the freeway. And that is what we see in my district, and that's what makes us disheartened. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Quesada.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you. As many of you know, and this is on the record, I did not support the master plan for Santolina, and there was a number of reasons for it. The first being that I thought it was way too big. It was very ambitious. It's the size of a town. It was for 90,000 people, and that was pretty much overwhelming. And of course, my issue was who's going to pay for all the infrastructure, and the way it was set up, I thought was that we weren't going to, but then it turns out that there's a lot of tax increment districts out there. So it's like, well, I guess we are. So I was concerned about that. And then I did not support the zoning that was attached to the plan because for the same reasons, right? I felt that something like that, I would have preferred that it would be, if you're going to promote something, it should be a little more phased. And then again, it was because the tax increment districts that were approved for that site. I just want to say, I'm an irrigator. I live in the North Valley. I was very distressed about the water. the river drying up. I think that was, obviously for obvious reasons, right? Because the river helps keep the valley, both valleys, alive and healthy. And of course, it gives water to the small farmers and the bigger farmers too. And it keeps the acequias and running and the trees and everything like that. So I understand the whole water issue. What I think is, and then I just want to address the issue about, someone said, I can't believe you've been talking about this. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's what we do. People have property and they have property rights and they come before us and they ask for, that's the process. You get planned through and you ask for zoning or whatever. I've been in development, it's been redevelopment, but it's still, it's still development, and we have to go through the same process as the city. And so that's our job. Our job is to look at plans and to look at things like uses and proposed uses and things like that. I think what I think is beneficial to this particular request is that it's for, what I'm excited about is it could be possible, it's for the solar development, and that's something we need. It is low water use, which is opposed to, having water use that's intensive, which is something we don't want. All the conditions associated with this, you can't drill a well, you can't get water from the water authority. So that means water authority is not going to extend water to that area, and you have to bring it on board, and it's not as much because we're talking about low water uses. I think that's preferable to, quite frankly, having a, big water use. Now, why is this happening? Well, I think part of it's happening, and I think most people know this, is because this is a huge plan, and in order for this property owner to get water to such a huge plan, they have to have a deal with the water authority. Water authority has basically said, well, you're going to have your own system. You're going to have an entire system for this project. And that's a lot of infrastructure. And I think the last cost was like $70 million to put all the water infrastructure in there. That required reclaimed water, mostly, and it had to have its own wastewater system. It could be attached to the city of Albuquerque's and Bernalillo County's wastewater system. That's a big price tag, but they didn't deny it. They weren't going to deny water. They were going to say, this is what you have to do if you want water, okay? That's a big cost. There's a road, I guess, that exists to this project. I think the important thing for me is how is this all going to work out in the end, right? That comes through a site plan. What's the site plan going to look like? And that's the next process, right? I'm hoping that, and I don't know if I'll be on the commission when a site plan comes through, but I'm hoping that will be looked at very carefully because there's a jail right here. And so there's a landfill not too far, or a proposed landfill possibly. And then, of course, there's a possibility of a solar field, which, the jail, you can see some photographs, satellite photographs, there's a big array that actually provides electricity to the jail. So that's a possibility of generating more renewable energy, which I think is a good thing. So I'm I'm saying this because I'm concerned about water just as everybody else. But when do we shut off the tap? We're doing a lot of redevelopment in the North Valley. There's a project that's going near me, it's 60 homes. There's another project that's going in Los Ranchos, 200 homes. Those are, everybody's conserving, but that's adding to the water use. It just happens to be in the interior, right? I do not support sprawl. I see sprawl as, that we're, basically sending infrastructure out there, right? And that's a cost to everybody. And it hurts, I think, efforts to maintain other older infrastructure. And especially that money goes out to developers. And we pay for all that infrastructure. That concerns me. I like compact development, and I like, development that is contiguous as you go out, right? I think that makes sense from a planning perspective, and also from an infrastructure perspective. That's what I support. Where there's infrastructure, that's where we should build. And of course, I support very, good development and high quality development. Sawmill project is a very good example of that. And as many of you know, I was very involved in developing that project. So I think this is, preferable to, I think, what was originally planned, which is the ability to do a light industrial, which would require a lot of water. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Malley. I believe we're ready for a vote. I do want to make one comment because I feel, one, I want to say, yeah, I am actually taking you way back, right? I'm an heir to the Trisco land grant, which was sold, got this water under the bridge, right? But just to say that my family, for multiple generations, has come and fought for our water. My family property still is right there off of Pajarito, where my grandpa, I'm only here because of access to the sequía and the waters that my grandfather cultivated for our families, right? So I want folks to understand that, yeah, I consider myself an environmental justice advocate. I believe water is sacred. It is life, as many have said tonight. This plan was passed, and as people have said, the cost when those plans were passed and the studies were done, over 65 million, I believe one of the comments were to actually provide the infrastructure needed to fulfill the master plan of Santolina and the planned communities of, like Commissioner Quesada mentions, of rooftops to jobs, to schools, to parks, right? So that, as I've been told, is years and years, decades ahead, because I don't know that any commission or anyone anytime soon is going to provide over 65 million, or Commissioner O'Malley said 70 million, to provide that infrastructure. So the plan was passed, as others have said, through a robust community involvement. And I feel like people are somewhat misinformed about the water uses. I think I can say that I support this because this is about recycling tires, which I only learned since being on the commissioner that we currently transport, which is also an environmental problem to our communities, transport tires out of state to facilities, and or they just get buried in our landfill and then become an even bigger problem because they're taking up space, the deterioration of them. So I was only alerted in the last year and a half about the tire problem we have. So while this isn't likely going to solve it, it can provide some relief. What I also, I feel like I can support this because it doesn't use our water. It's not tapped into our water, right? It is even asking for less use of potable water that will be transported out there only to be used for employees and some things, right? Not massive amount of water. In fact, 2% of what was previously approved in a planned communities, which again takes in consideration how rooftops to parks to schools to jobs. I do have concerns and I wish that the applicant would have done more about informing advocates and community about what this vote was about so that they could also be prepared and not misinformed. But I still believe, and I just want to follow, right? I've been on both sides of this now. And I believe, right, process, I heard folks talk about process and procedures or getting into the weeds. We have to, right? I have to stand and believe that these processes and procedures are put in place. And I want to say that our ancestors, my ancestors, are not new to process and procedure. We have followed rule and law of the land for a long time. And so being integral to those processes and procedures is what keeps us accountable, and which keeps our process, our democracy engaged. So I just wanted to be clear about those things. I believe Bernalillo County staff in the last year and a half, I've seen nothing more, but them also, most of the staff in Bernalillo County, as I've learned over the last year, are from here, born and raised, like me, multiple generations, many of them, and they are concerned about water too. So I believe everybody has done their due diligence. And again, just to repeat, and because I also believe in information, right, that this presentation, and I'm sorry if folks didn't feel informed coming into this meeting, but we are pretty clear that this ask now from many years of Santolina's request getting denied because it wasn't following process and procedure, or because maybe it did use too much water, or whatever the reasons for before, that this part, this section, and this issue is going to continue to come to folks 30 years ahead. There's not a null and void, right? This is going to keep coming to us. And when folks talk about piecemeal, this is the option, right? Where we're saying this huge, over 13,000 acres now are taking this small section, 608, get the total number, right, of this portion of this huge ocean of land minus the water. And they're trying to make something with it that they can. And I believe it to be within the permissible use and what commissioners before me have laid out, and which community has been a part of throughout the process. So I just wanted to share those comments. I'm available for further discussion after this vote and the subsequent vote. And thank everybody for coming out, providing public comment. I hear your passion. I am committed to our environment and particularly to our water, and hope that we can have some conversations. Madam Clerk, if there's not any further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Madam Chair, if we can request the clerk provide the resolution number first, please.
Sure. For item 4A, we have AR 2022-90.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Madam Clerk, if you can proceed with issuing 4B as well.
For item 4B, AR 2022-91.
Go ahead and please call the roll for 4A.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Oh, prior, my apologies. Findings and conditions? Enrico?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board. So we have two items. We have an item A and an item B. Item A is the amendment to the level A plan. Item B is the actual level B plan itself. I think Ms. Verrek can read those findings and conditions into the record before the vote, just to ensure that they make it on the record. And again, these findings and conditions work to consolidate all of the rules, regulations, and requirements of all the various county codes to ensure that there is guidance and clarity with regards to the operation of the master plan moving forward. So with that, I'll defer to Ms. Verrek.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, so the first item that you would be voting on is SPR 20220006. And Ms. Baca, could we have the overhead that I can display these for everybody? And then if you'd like, Madam Chair, I can also read these into the record in case, and I apologize, it is a little bit lengthy. And I would preface this by saying that these are, for the most part, the findings and conditions that appeared in the staff reports that were presented to the County Planning Commission, and there have not been substantial modifications to these since this went to the Planning Commission.
Just for clarification for the record, can you repeat that SPR number in full?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Benson, that is SPR 2022-0006. This is item 4A on the agenda.
I believe it's, on my record, is SPR 2021-0006.
Oh, I apologize. That is correct. It should be 2021-006. That's correct. These applications were first submitted in 2021. Thank you. So may I proceed, Madam Chair? And
yes.
Did you want to display these, Julie?
You asked for the document camera. It's on.
I have it on the.
Okay, so the laptop.
On the screen. Okay, there we go. Okay. So SPR 20220006, sorry, 20210006. Request for approval of the request to amend the Santolina Level A Master Plan. So finding one, this request is for amendments to the Santolina Level A Master Plan. The proposed amendments seek to provide consistency between the adopted Santolina Level A Master Plan and the proposed Santolina Level B2 Plan, particularly in the areas of phasing, water and wastewater, and open space. The plan area currently legally described as the Santolina Level A plat and lots 1 and 2, Santolina Unit 2, generally bounded by Interstate 40 to the north, 118th Street, and the escarpment open space to the east, the Pajarito Mesa on the south, and the escarpment area adjacent to the Rio Puerco Valley on the west. In projected sections, and this is the legal.
May I expand so that others can look at it from the audience?
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. And Madam Chair, should I read the detail, Enrico, read all the details of the legal description? It's sections within Township 9 North, Range 1 East, and sections within Township 9 North, Range 2 East, and sections in Township 10 North, Range 1, and sections within Township 9, Range 2 East, and this is within sections within the New Mexico Prime Meridian grid system. Town of Atrisco Grant in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Zone PC Level A, and containing approximately 13,700 acres. So that's basically the legal description. Finding 2 of the Santolina Level A Master Plan was adopted by the Board of County Commissioners on June 16, 2015, with 24 findings and 22 conditions as identified in the Notice of Decision dated June 19, 2015, under SPR 20130004. These findings and conditions continue to apply. The Board of County Commissioners amended conditions of approval 8, 9, and 11 of the Santolina Level A Master Plan approval that pertain to the provision of water service to the Santolina development by the Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority regarding timing of the requirement of a fully executed development agreement between the applicant and the ABCWUA. These conditions do not apply to the Level B2 plan. The provisions for on-site water and wastewater systems as described within this Level A plan only apply to the 630-acre tract within the B2, the Level B2 plan that is under consideration as SPR 2021-0004. An additional condition, number 1, has been added to the Level A conditions to apply exclusively to the Level B2 plan. The proposed amendments to accommodate the Level B2 plan are consistent with the principles of the Santolina Level A plan and the overall intent and vision of the Santolina Level A plan that calls for an integrated mixed-use development that provides for adequate jobs and housing in the subject property that is in a designated industrial area and will provide for jobs on the site. Number 6, the provisions for on-site water and wastewater systems as described within this Level A plan are limited to the Level B2 area and will not negatively impact provisions for water and wastewater within Santolina as described in the Santolina Level A Plan. These amendments in the number 7, these amendments in the associated allowable uses as anticipated in the Level A Plan are particularly appropriate given the uniqueness of the subject property on the southwestern edge of Santolina, and the proposed uses demonstrably will not require ABCWUA sewer and water service. Okay, on to conditions. Number 1, the 630-acre site described as the Santolina Level B2 plan area will develop only under on-site water and wastewater utilities as described in the amended Level A Plan, Chapter 5, Utilities, and in the Level B Plan, Chapter 6, Utility Infrastructure. Number 2, the Santolina Level A Development Agreement shall be modified as necessary to ensure consistency with the Level B2 plan in such areas as land use, transportation, and open space. Additional modifications to the Level A amended plan are as follows. Ensure throughout the text in the Level A plan that on-site water and wastewater systems are limited to the B2 plan area. And B, provide clarifications to ensure that water consumption for the on-site system will be substantially less than other uses listed under the zone industrial business park. And finally, number 4, additional typographical errors and grammatical changes agreed to by Bernalillo County may be made prior to completion of the Level A amended plan following the approval of the Board of County Commissioners. Okay. Madam Chair, Commissioners, so those are up for your adoption.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. And I believe we're now ready for Madam Clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Benson,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Quesada,
Aye.
Chair Barboa.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a due pass, and now I believe the commission can accept a motion. And
I'll make a
second.
motion.
I move for approval of item B.
Thank you, Commissioner Quesada. Do we have a second?
Second.
I believe that was Commissioner Benson. Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, just quickly, if we can, for the record, excuse Commissioner Piscotti.
Thank you. I meant to do that. I meant to say that at the beginning of this. Thank you very much, Julianne. Commissioner Piscotti is excused for the vote today. She did inform us beforehand, and it was my mistake to not mention at the top of the meeting. Commissioner Piscotti has been excused from today's meeting. Yes, Ms. Burke, I believe you're going to read the findings.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I can read them. This is item 4B, SPR 2021-0004. And Julie, if you want to display these so folks can follow along. And at least we don't have a big, long legal description to start with. Finding 1, this is a request for approval of the Santolina B2 plan on proposed tract 3A1B Santolina Level A plat located on the east side of Shelley Road, southwest, approximately 3 miles south of I-40, zoned Santolina PC Level A, and containing approximately 630 acres. Number 2, the Santolina B2 plan is consistent with the Santolina Level A plan in that it proposes development within the industrial and business park area within the southwestern portion of Santolina to include industrial uses that require limited water and wastewater to be served on-site utilities as provided only by the B2, only for the B2 plan in the amended Level A plan. Number 3, the Santolina B2 plan does not request service from the ABCWUA. A development agreement with the ABCWUA would only be required if service is being requested from ABCWUA. Number 4, Santolina B2 plan includes specific provisions for zoning with land uses including power generation, that's solar and wind, battery storage, recycling facilities, refuse, waste disposal, and utility and drainage facilities. It also includes standards for design, such as landscaping and parking, in accordance with the types of land uses that will be followed. Santolina B2 plan also includes provisions for connections to the Santolina Transportation Network, open space, trails, drainage, and government and public services within the B2 plan area. The Santolina Level A Master Plan, together with Planned Community Zoning, was adopted by the Board of County Commissioners on June 16, 2015 for the entire 13,851 acre property with 24 findings and 22 conditions of approval. The Level A development agreement between Bernalillo County and Western Albuquerque Land Holdings was approved on June 24, 2015. Modifications to Level A conditions of approval 8, 9, 11 related to ABCWUA supplied services were adopted by the Board of County Commissioners on August 15, 2017. Amendments to the Level A plan that are needed for consistency between the Level A plan and the B2 plan. Requests related to on-site water and wastewater, transportation network, and open space and phasing have concurrently been considered and approved. Technical reports that were approved for the Level A plan, including the revised Level A transportation plan, continue to apply to the Santolina B2 plan. Number 9, the Santolina B2 plan is consistent with the Santolina Level A plan that designates the site's area as industrial. In accordance with the Santolina Level A plan, the Santolina B2 plan is consistent with the plan's communities criteria and the Albuquerque Bernalillo County reserve area that call for substantial self-sufficiency and economic sensitivity and development that is at no cost to Bernalillo County. Approval of the provision for on-site water and wastewater systems, utilities within the Level B2 plan is specific to the Level B2 plan area and does not imply approval of such a system in other areas in Santolina, which shall be subject to provisions for water and wastewater systems as described in the Santolina Level A Master Plan and the conditions of approval. And finally, finding 12, the Board of County Commissioners has approved under the case SPR 2021-0006 amendments to the Santolina Level A Master Plan in such areas as phasing, open space, and transportation, and creates the possibility for on-site water and wastewater solely within the B2 plan, which all are needed for the approval of the B2 plan. Okay, and then we have 9 conditions. So continue with the conditions, Madam Chair. Number 1, development of the Santolina B2 plan shall conform to the areas and exhibits in the plan document, most specifically pertaining to the following areas: land uses, zoning, open space and trails, transportation, and utility infrastructure. Number 2, the B2 plan will be limited to the industrial uses listed in the zoning chapter that require limited water and wastewater to be served by on-site utilities as provided for in the amended Level A plan and as specified in Chapter 5, Utility Infrastructure. No private wells or privately owned public water supply wells will be constructed or utilized within the B2 plan area. Upon development of the B2 area, mitigation specified in the completed class archaeological survey for this 350 acres of the site will need to be addressed. An additional class 3, and I believe that would be a survey for the remaining 280 acres of the B2 area will be required prior to submittal of a level C plan and development of that area. Okay, Santolina Development Agreement will be, B2 Development Agreement will be required in accordance with the Santolina Level A Development Agreement. The Level B2 plan approval shall not be implemented until the Level B Development Agreement with Bernalillo County and the developer is finalized and fully executed. In the event that the Level B2 Development Agreement has not been fully executed by the 4-year plan review date, the plan shall be subject to review for validity in accordance with the Level B Plan Community's criteria. No Level C applications shall be submitted until the County Development Agreement is fully executed. If there is no County Development Agreement after the prescribed time, the matter shall require review of the plan document through the County Planning Commission process, subject to most current county regulations. Okay, we're getting there. Number 5, Santolina Level B development shall comply with all applicable Bernalillo County ordinances and standards as more specifically provided in the Level A Development Agreement. The Level B Development Agreement shall be consistent with the Level A Development Agreement. Modifications to the Level A Development Agreement will be required for adjustments to land use calculation, open space, transportation to be determined at the time of drafting and approval of the Level B Development Agreement. Number 6, prior to additional approvals for the Level B2 plan area, including Level C plans, platting of the subject property will be required. Number 7, prior to Level C approvals for the B2 plan area, any required approvals from federal, state, and local agencies shall be submitted to Bernalillo County departments. Number 8, additional modifications to the Level B2 plan that must be made in the Level B2 plan, and that's prior to publication, are as follows. Add language to indicate that any type of hazardous waste will not be allowed within the Level B2 plan area. If a solid waste management facility is proposed within the Level B2 plan area, the following special waste categories as regulated by the New Mexico Environment Department shall be allowed: sludge, asbestos, and industrial solid waste. Tire disposal will also be allowed in accordance with NMED regulations. B, provide clarifications to ensure that water consumption for the on-site system will be substantially less than other uses listed under the zone industrial business park. C, and again, ensure throughout the text in the B2 plan that on-site water and wastewater systems are limited to the B2 plan area. And finally, number 9, additional corrections to the plan, such as grammatical and typographical corrections agreed to by the county staff, may be incorporated in the revised plan prior to publication. Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you. Dan?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, in reviewing that list as we were going through on, I believe it's item 8A. I'm sorry. Yeah, very good. Thank you. On item 8A, the items listed were sludge, asbestos, industrial solid waste. And then we had a second statement for tire disposal will be allowed in accordance with the NMED regulations. We also need to add one other sentence for ASR, or it should read automotive shredder residue, thank you, will also be allowed. It's just to clarify what is and isn't going in, because ASR technically isn't an industrial solid waste.
That's the acronym that they
Thank
use
you.
in the
All right.
regulation.
So in the NMED regulations, thank you, I believe it's solid waste not otherwise specified. So if we could craft that last statement, ASR and other solid waste not otherwise specified will also be allowed.
Madam Chair. This is Lucas, and this is
Yes.
this was presented in the graphic that the applicant had presented. It was just wanted to make sure it was everything was listed properly, so we're clear what is going into that landfill. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarity. Now I believe we have a motion and a second. There's not any further discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Chair Benson,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Quesada,
Aye.
Chair Barboa.
So Madam Chair's internet keeps going in and out. So we can wait?
We'll wait.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'm going to go ahead and defer to you on whether you want to continue the votes without Madam Chair and then close the meeting from there.
Just out of respect for Madam Chair, let's wait another minute, see if she can get connected.
Okay.
And if not, the 3 votes, the motion passes, so we'll close from there. But let's give her another minute. Julianne, is she back on?
She is not, no.
Okay. I'm going to assume that she's having technical difficulties. So with that, the vote passes. And before I announce the next meeting, is there anything else you need to cover? Julianne?
Mr. Chair, just announcing the next zoning meeting and
Great.
adjournment. Thank you.
Okay, the next zoning meeting will be Tuesday, September 13th, 2022 at 3 p.m. in the Ken Sanchez Commission chambers. If there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.